I'm going to talk a few minutes about I believe it's issue 10, which was our local boards obsolete. And I thought you had some really good thoughts about how boards might be improved. But I think the overwhelming thought was that we wanted to keep our local boards, and that they could probably be improved. But for Nebraska, anyway, it was an appropriate institution to maintain, and I think school boards can be the sounding board for the community. They can be advocates for students, and I think that very little consideration in Nebraska as far as doing away with boards of education. Some of I guess one of the things I'd recommend for boards of education, or if Nebraska's legislature was going to do anything, I think it'd be appropriate for them to require board members to attend at least 15 hours a year of boardsmanship workshops and sessions. I think those boards that do attend state conferences and even national conferences, or do boardsmanship retreats, I think those are much more effective, and that would be one of the main issues that I would mention. I do quite a few presentations on boardmanship, and I think that it's probably one of the biggest issues is they're not sure what their role is. But one of the things of working with boards for an administrator, and many of you are principals, and probably half of this class or more are teachers. But I think working with boards is a real skill, and you have to work at it. You have to be aware of what board members are, what they're like, or what they're trying to accomplish. And I think overwhelmingly most board members have students at heart. And I think that we'll hear about board members that have an agenda, and there certainly are board members that do run for the Board of Education with an agenda. One of the most important things, and I tell my special students that maybe the most important time in your career is from maybe a month before the primary to the time that the new board takes their positions, and I think that is board orientation. I think you have to work really hard to get board members or future potential board members in for orientation. Get your board president and yourself to work with those people and explain the budget, explain the process, try to explain the role of boards of education. I think one of the things we used to do is we had a vocabulary of educational terms that we went through each term and would explain it to them. ESU, IEP, those types of things that the average citizen's not real sure what that means, and can make a board member feel pretty insecure when the rest of the board's talking about terms they don't understand at all. So we would give them the list, and they would it would just have the term. We'd explain it to them. They'd write it in their own words what that meant to them. And that's one of the, I guess, the presentations I do is we talk a lot about speak their language and teach them yours. And I think you have to talk to board members at their level. I think as far as overall board members I've worked with, the overwhelming majority have just had good intentions when they ran for Board of Education. Those that had an agenda, a lot of times that orientation would help them understand, and they really would appreciate that they weren't made a fool of or appear to be less than the most intelligent person when they make statements. And I can recall one board member he did not get elected, one candidate who made a statement on a forum that he would do away with special education. Well, had he attended those orientation sessions, he would realize that those are federal laws, and you don't do away with special education. But I think that's really important, that you get those types of things ironed out. And I think it's imperative that you talk about, that your board members understand the difference between board policy and their role in setting board policy, and then administrative procedures and your role in actually implementing those policies, and knowing that you have some leeway within those policies. I think that's really important. The differences in boards, I think, are significant, but I'll hear superintendents say, "Oh, I had a bad board here. I had a bad board here." You know, after about the third time, you start wondering if it's a bad board or if it's a superintendent who's not working with the board. I think that's really an important role of an administrator to do those things. But overall, I think you did a nice job. It was really interesting reading about some of the positives that your board is doing, and I thought was equally rewarding was that some of you who had mentioned earlier that your board was not the most effective, as you read through those, you can see that boards can be much more effective. I hope this particular issue was of benefit to you, and we'll see you at the next module, I guess. So thank you.